Welcome back, Guardians, to the TDT video. I'm your humble host, Meeson777. I've got approximately 1 minute and 30 seconds before the Doom OST hits, and I will lose you to the mini montage, so I will try to make this brief. Typically, whenever we create a build video, it's a one and done deal. We talk about it, we say, hey, this is a pretty cool idea. This is a pretty fun build. You should give it a try. And that's it. That's pretty much, we never come back to it. But as you can obviously see from, if you've seen the other video on this exact build, we're coming back to it. Why? This build, just over the last few weeks of us been kind of messing around and experimenting with it, has proven to be one of the most powerful builds, and that's not an exaggeration, one of the most powerful builds in Destiny PvP right now. It is so hard to counter, and most Guardians aren't expecting it, and nobody is running anything that can actually deal with what this is capable of pushing out. This build runs the Icefall Mantles, the Whisper of Chains Fragment, a maximum resilience, high recovery, and possibly one of the best weapons in the game right now, ironically, for control and anti-ape aggression, a weapon that has been long since memed on. And, well, it's able to punch out a 0.6 TTK and a 0.8 seconds to the body, known as Sweet Business. The Sweet Business has been memed on for a very, very long time. It's been looked at as a joke weapon, and understandably, I was kind of in the same boat. But with the combination of all this stuff, which we will get into a little bit later, it becomes one of the most powerful things in Destiny. Rarely am I so bold as to say that this might be the next upcoming meta that everybody is sleeping on, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. This might be the next upcoming meta and everybody is sleeping on it. It's so good that I'm almost willing to bet that Bungie may nerf this because it is so freaking strong. It's using a combination of things. I mentioned it earlier, but I'll just go into more gory detail here. We are using the Icefall Mantles, which long have been thought of as a memely type exotic, a waste of an exotic slot, which I tended to agree. And we are running the Sweet Business, another absolute meme weapon that why in the world would you ever run something like this? But here's the deal. The Sweet Business and the Icefall Mantles in combination with a tank style playstyle, what we call a Gamma playstyle, which I will talk about here a little bit, and the Whisper of Chains Fragment and the Whisper of Torments Fragment, we are capable of surviving the same amount of damage as a super. Okay, let that sink in. On an 11-second cooldown, we are capable of getting super levels of damage resistance for normal engagements. And with the Sweet Business, when it's completely spun up, having one of the fastest TTKs for its range, for any range mostly, outside of those extremely long ranges, you are an absolute menace to deal with. Let me put it this way, in case this isn't perfectly clear. I am comfortable handling 2v1 situations with this build, not just something where it's just like, oh, you play well and you do okay, you'll be able to handle it. No, you legitimately can just take a 2v1 just for free. You treat this like you have a super and you will slay like you have a super. Let me explain some of the tactics here, because I think that this is going to be important, and then we'll go into more of the details as to how we make this build work. First and foremost, like I mentioned, this is a gamma build. If you are not familiar with what that means, I highly recommend you go click on this video right here. It'll give you some information onto what this playstyle is. I will give you a brief summarized version of it. A gamma playstyle is a defensive playstyle. When we're doing what we call the Wolfpack tactics, this playstyle sits roughly in the middle of the team, looking to provide area denial and team support to your team and obviously to butt out the enemy team. This playstyle is designed to be a counter to aggression, to be a counter to what we call the alpha playstyle. What does this mean to you if you're looking to pick up this build? That means if you are playing this correctly, which again is really not that hard, and you've got the combination of things together, you are an excellent counter to the most prevalent playstyle right now in Destiny 2. That overly aggressive ape playstyle is hard countered by this playstyle. The amount of times I've had a Fellwinter's Hunter jump over the top of my Icefall, shotgun melee me, and then go to walk away, only to have that mild moment of hesitation of, oh wait, he's not dead, and then have the Sweet Business rip him in half in a glorious spill of glimmer. There is nothing more hilarious and nothing more enjoyable than being able to tank damn near everything in the game. What can and can't you tank, you might be asking? Well, with this build, and if you're playing it correctly, the only thing that really has a hard counter to you are things that can normally kill a super. So, high impact sniper rifles to the head, things like the Bastion because it punches out so much damage, getting stuck by a Wither Horde, getting double shotgunned by a high impact shotgun, things that you'll be capable of surviving, a headshot from literally any other weapon in the game that is not one of those highest of impact archetypes. This includes 90 RPM sniper rifles, even if they have Vorpal, because you're technically not a super. You can survive a headshot even without the full combo of a 140 sniper rifle just with the Icefall mantles alone. With either of the Whisper of Chains buff active or with your overshield from the Icefall mantles, you are capable of surviving a headshot from a slug shotgun, assuming it's not the Chaperone with Roadborne or some type of other damage buff granted to it. You're capable of surviving, assuming you have maximum resilience, 8 body shots from a 120 hand cannon. You can effectively bump up the TTK of a headshot, body shot, 120 hand cannon to 2 whole seconds. Let's talk about how to best optimize this build, because it will be a little bit awkward at first, especially if you had nobody else running this in your team before and you haven't been able to see what their positioning is. First and foremost, whenever you go into a new space, you're going to want to throw down your Icewall. I recommend running things like the Whisper of Shards, which allow you to get your Icewall energy back whenever you break one of those stasis crystals. Similarly, on your build, I recommend that you do not run Cryoclasm. Run the Tectonic Harvest, run the Howl of the Storm. The Howl of the Storm in particular is quite good for what you're going to be trying to do. With the Howl of the Storm plus the Tectonic Harvest, all of your ice crystals, including your own melee, will give you your melee energy back, and if you're running the Whisper of Shards, you'll also get some grenade energy back. So, the general combo is get into a space, throw down some type of crystal, depending on what you have up. Typically, you'll end up flip-flopping between your grenade and your melee, because those will generally be up one right after the other. Sometimes you'll get the lucky benefit of having them both up and active, and you'll be able to get pretty good benefit out of that. But typically, you'll have the grenade or the melee, but not both. Once you get that down, use those crystals as cover, or just use whatever cover's nearby. Pop your Icefall Mantle Overshield, and then start to spin up the Sweet Business from around the safety of cover or the safety of your ice crystals. It is a-okay to start busting your ice crystals with the spin up from the Sweet Business. A little side note, while you are popping the Icefall Mantles and you're coming out of the third person view, you can begin to spin up. Once you're in your Icefall Mantles, you will not be able to do any type of high movement ability, whether that be sprinting, sliding, or boosting. None of it will work. But that's a-okay, because the Sweet Business is perfectly fine with being a stationary guardian ripping machine. For your mods, I recommend running as much support into the auto rifle as you can. So things like reloaders, double targeting, unflinching, and a reserves, because you do happen to run out of ammo sometimes on the Sweet Business. I don't even really run any scavengers on this. I run a slug shotgun in order to help back this weapon up, but legitimately, I hardly ever use it. Whereas most Guardians will use their special weapon like as a primary weapon and get 90% of their kills with it, this build is the other way around. 90% of my kills will come from the sweet business and the other 10% will come from the shotgun. Obviously, you'll want to switch to that shotgun. I run a slug when you get into close range spaces because a good Guardian will be able to punch down enough damage on you as if they're killing a super if they've been kind of wary of what you've been doing. In general, you should try to position yourself in an area that is closer-ish cover. The hardest thing you'll have is to be able to counter extremely long-range weaponry. Things like scout rifles at ranges where this business can't compete. High-impact snipers are your bane. Try to avoid them at all cost, and just make sure that your sweet business is spun up. Don't be afraid to, of course, mix in a melee every now and then. For your heavy, it legitimately does not matter. If you're able to do all of this, if you're able to put those fragments, those aspects, the exotic armor, the sweet business, all of this together, you will find that this is probably the most powerful and the most fun Titan build you will ever play. And I'm curious if you've been running this without telling anybody, because I wouldn't be surprised. This is incredibly strong and I don't blame you if you've kept this to yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing as it does help us out quite a bit if you want to see more content like this. Hope you enjoyed the Doom OST. Bless your faces and deuces.